Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you today. Yep, Vols are getting disrespected everywhere. It just continues on.
Again.
Also, Charles Barkley has ripped college sports. He calls it a cesspool. We're going to get all into that too. But as you know, I don't bury the lead. Let's get right into this disrespect. This is on CBS Sports. Ranking the 10 bleakest QB situations among Power 4 conferences entering the 25 season.
The suspense is terrible.
And while we weren't ranked number 1 on that list, we got in a very special category just for us. Yeah, dishonorable mentions. Oh, God. And right here it says, Tennessee, the Vols lost high upside quarterback Nico IAMALEAVA. First of all, we didn't lose anything. You know, it's not like we put him over here on a counter and forgot we put him there. No. We paid him over $5 million over 2 years. It was a 3-year, $8 million deal, half of which he collected while he was sitting on the bench. And then he just took off and just left in the spring, which is the absolute worst time you can leave, because all the quarterbacks that were out there in the wintertime, they'd already picked their spot and already signed contracts. And unlike Nico, when they sign a contract, I guess they actually mean it. So we didn't lose him. He left. Kind of like we didn't lose Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin walked out the day before National Signing Day, which was the worst thing a college football coach could do, not unlike what Nico did. So we didn't lose him. Replaced him with a solid, if unspectacular, starting option transfer, Joey Aguilar, who was at UCLA. He had signed from Appalachian State. And what happened there, he'd signed a contract with UCLA. He's thinking, hey, I'm going to be the starting quarterback. And then UCLA goes and recruits over top of him because Nico, who really didn't want to go to UCLA, he wanted to go to Oregon, Notre Dame, Ohio State, somewhere like that, and wanted $4 million. All those schools said, nah, we saw your numbers.
Ew, get off of me. Ugh, as if.
19 touchdowns. We're not going to pay you $4 million for that. I'm sorry. And they also didn't like the fact that he was going behind Tennessee's back, or his people were, and talking to him. As a matter of fact, Oregon contacted Heupel and let him know, hey, he's going behind your back. So he wound up falling into UCLA for about $1.5 million is the reported amount, somewhere in that neighborhood. And of course, that's a little bit less than $4 million and a little bit less than the actual $2.67 he was making at Tennessee. And where I come up with that number is $8 million divided by 3 years. He probably got a signing bonus. You know, athletes never want to count signing bonus as part of the 3 years. Well, guess what? It does. 2.67 is what you were making. And Shannon Terry of On3, they had him listed at being around $2.5 million. So he's actually perfectly paid at 2.67. But no, he wanted $4 million. So he wound up going to UCLA with $1 million pay cut. And whoops, wait a minute, you got to pay a 14% state income tax. That's another $200,000 off of that. And it costs 70% more to live in LA. Didn't work out so well for him either, but I honestly think we got hurt more. Now, hopefully Joey Aguilar turns out to be our next 10 and hooker. Who knows? But everybody's disrespecting the crap out of us because of this. And we're off everybody's list. Yeah, we got knocked out of the top 25 from ESPN's rankings, and we got pushed into, yeah, those receiving votes. That's just like, ugh, those not interested. And to make matters worse, Urban Meyer told us we were screwed.
Here's the reality is Tennessee is screwed. They got a problem. You lose a potential high draft pick. You have the backup quarterback left last year, and now you have a redshirt freshman that threw 9 passes and a freshman. You have 0 experience. And the portal opens as we speak. They are going to have to go get one. So,
yeah, and then he went on, continued to say that even later on, even after we picked up Joey Aguilar, which, look, he was the only viable option out there. We tried on several different quarterbacks, but they'd already signed contracts. And see, some of these quarterbacks, they're so weird. They sign a contract, they shake hands, and they give people their word, and then they stick to it, which makes no sense.
Yeah. Weird.
Because Madden IAMALEAVA, you know, he walked away from his contract after 3 months and went to UCLA. So, I mean, isn't that what quarterbacks are supposed to do? Isn't that where you sign your name, give a handshake, give people your word, and then you just walk away? Huh. I don't think these other quarterbacks understand how this is supposed to go. And for Nico, if you think this is not going to follow you for the rest of your playing days, let's see what Cam Newton has to say about it. Probably somebody that knows a little something about dealing with that kind of stuff.
Ever gave him the advice to sit out, killed that kid.
Regardless of how you bounce back from this, you will be the example. He will have this as a stain on his career, and it's sad.
Yeah, and Cam didn't enjoy saying that. He likes Nico, but you can't walk away from your contract like that. You just can't. And be a holdout and not go to practice, which was another stupid thing to do, because that eliminated your option of staying in case you wanted to stay. What happened was he got upset. He allowed his emotions to control him, didn't go to practice. You got put off the team because of that, because you have to. You cannot let somebody pull that kind of stunt. So he burned the bridge. Then he got out there and realized there's no money out here for me. You know, Oregon and all these places I wanted to go to, they're not interested. So I got to go to my backup plan, which is UCLA, and take a huge pay cut. And the offense that you wanted, you went from a top 15 offense to the 118th offense. You went from bookend 5-star tackles to protect you and 4 stars in the middle to a bunch of 3 stars to protect you. That just doesn't make any sense. And in Josh Heupel's offense, you get the ball out of your hands quickly. This UCLA offense, you're probably going to have to stay in that pocket for a while. And, you know, look, I hope one thing for him is that he stays healthy all year and that Joey Aguilar stays healthy all year, because I want to see how these kids stack up. I think it'll be very interesting. I never, ever wish for bad things to happen to somebody's health, ever, ever. So, Nico, I hope you don't even get a hangnail. I want to see what you do this year behind a makeshift offensive line, which is what UCLA has, a brand new offensive coordinator that's never called a play, and see how you do. Because the Josh Heupel offense that's never had anybody have less than 20 touchdowns in a season ever. Yeah, that's Josh Heupel's offense right there. See all those touchdowns up there? Yeah, that's all his quarterbacks. Drew Lock, Mackenzie Milton, Dylan Gabriel, Hendon Hooker. Even Joe Milton had more touchdowns than you did, and he was overthrowing a bunch of people. But you had 19. It wasn't a bad season. He was a redshirt freshman. I'm not getting on him and saying it was a terrible season or anything like that. It just wasn't great. It was just okay. Well, we'll see how you do at UCLA. It's not going to be so easy over there, and you're not going to have 100,000 fans rooting for you either. And I doubt you're going to have $50,000 offered to you to go down and do a promo that you gave a thumbs down to because it wasn't $65,000, and then supposedly had your pops call him up and give him grief. That was according to Fox Sports Radio. And then also Will West of 99.1 Sports Animal said he talked directly to the business owner that said he was offered $50,000. So you wanted more money. Tennessee gets it for you. I don't feel like going down there. I don't want to fool with that. What do you do? What do you do? You wanted more money. We got it for you. You won't walk down and get it. Crazy. And I know somebody in the comment, so don't ever talk about Nico. Look, Nico's part of our past. I talk about Lane Kiffin. It's what I do. I don't let things go, people.
He ain't lying.
Have you not met me? All right, now we need to talk about Charles Barkley. He is not happy with the NIL situation and how kids are acting and all of that, and he calls it a cesspool. I'm going to let you hear his words for yourself. And this is on Outkick.
You know, is Michael ever going to give, $10 million in North Carolina and be assistant GM? I saw Shaq's doing that with Mike Bibby. Will you ever do something like that with Bruce at Auburn, or will Michael ever do something like that at North Carolina?
Well, it's more important for me when I get a charity. Like I just gave $10 million to HBCUs. That stuff is way more important to me. I just gave a couple $1 million to Blight in my hometown and in Birmingham to tear down old houses and rebuild them. That stuff is way more important to me than joining the cesspool that's college athletics. This notion where you got to come up with tens of millions of dollars a year to play kids, to play basketball and have them be free agents every year and transfer to another school and get more money every year. Like, we don't even get to do that in the NBA. Can you imagine if players in the NBA got to be a free agent every year? I'm not opposed to players getting paid. I want to make that clear. But this notion that we got to give college kids tens of millions of dollars a year, and basketball is the worst because you're only going to get a great player for 6 months. I don't even see how that you're going to get the return on investment.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that a lot from you folks, that it's basically turned into kind of a cesspool, and I think it's starting to hurt the sports. It's probably hurting football, basketball, and all that. I don't think it's really hit baseball yet, but definitely those two sports, because, you know, you've got guys leaving constantly, doing whatever they can for the dollar, and a lot of them don't give a crap about the schools they're at, and people are starting to figure that out pretty quickly. So Barkley's probably right. You know, give your money to something that matters, you know, like improving somebody's life that's struggling, as opposed to somebody that's making millions. But it is the world that we're in now. Hopefully this House versus NCAA will help with that by having revenue sharing, which is what it should have been for a long time anyway, and get away from all this other stuff. But until we get into collective bargaining, or they get some sort of an antitrust exemption after the House versus NCAA, maybe the Congress steps in. I know there's talk of a football czar, which could be Nick Saban. If something like that doesn't happen, it's just we're going to be in and out of court constantly. There's even a lawsuit about getting a 5th year for college students. So anyway, it is a little bit sassy out there. Anyway, wanted you to hear that. And hopefully the Vols, this disrespect's getting old, man. I'm not liking it. We've had a nice 3 years, won 30 games. Our basketball team's been in the Elite Eight a couple of times and won a natty in baseball, and I was getting kind of comfortable with that. Now, being those receiving votes, I'm not liking that spot. That is not where you want to be in football, especially football. That's the crown jewel. Anyway, we'll see how Joey does, but this is an unforced error that had nothing to do with Tennessee. This is an unforced error by Nico when he pulled his little Lane Kiffin. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 hit this little button right there. Won't cost you a dime, help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video, YouTube. Thanks, you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
I'll turn this damn bus around. That'll end your precious little field trip pretty damn quick, huh?